And we are live! Not really. I'm filming this on 12:28 p.m. on Saturday. This is going to be uploaded in like an hour, and everybody's going to think I worked hard on it, and I literally just rolled out of bed and yeah. So, let's just get right into it. No NFL this week, so this is going to be a really short week. We do have to cover the UFC 258 pay-per-view, Usman versus Burns. That's going to be a good one. But let's just jump straight into NFL news. Big headline this week, Carson Wentz got traded from Philly to Indianapolis for a third this year and a second-round pick next year. That's a great trade for the Colts. For the Eagles, not so much, considering they gave up 2 firsts and a third and a second and a fifth in order to get Carson Wentz. So Philly's taking a big loss, but they have Jalen Hurts. They have that horrible Wentz contract off their cap space. So I feel like the Eagles are starting to start heading in the right direction. But if I would be lying to you if I told you that I didn't think the Colts just got worse than last year. Phillip Rivers, I would trust Phillip Rivers more than I trust Carson Wentz. And you couldn't do it with Phillip Rivers. Just because Carson Wentz is younger doesn't mean anything. And congrats to Carson Wentz. You got out of Philadelphia. That was your goal. Now you're in Indianapolis, though. So, I guess. Panthers are starting to clear cap space for Deshaun Watson. They're planning a big package for Deshaun Watson. They're trying to get the cap space that they need in order to get that contract available to them. So they're making the moves they have to make, but the Texans are still not budging. They say that Deshaun Watson will be a Texan next year. I don't know if I believe that, but I think people in the Houston front office believe that, and that's all that matters, I guess. Eagles released Deshaun Jackson for the second time in his career. I love Deshaun Jackson. Eagles released him. He didn't have a great year, full of injuries. I do think it is time for him to hang up the cleats. I just don't think he has what it takes anymore. I think the way that he plays football is too taxing on his body. His body can no longer do the things that he wants it to do. And, yeah. Dolphins give kicker Jason Sanders a 6-year, $22 million extension, so making him one of the highest paid kickers in the league. I think he deserves it. I think he missed 3 field goals last year, all of them the 50-plus. He's solid from under 50 and solid from after 50, so I like the move. I like Jason Sanders. I've liked him since he's been a Dolphin. And this just leads me to R.I.P. Vincent Jackson. It was reported in Tampa a couple days after the Super Bowl that Vincent Jackson was found dead in his hotel room. There was no signs of trauma, so odds are it was a suicide. More information on that coming. I know the coroner in Tampa is doing everything they can to figure out the cause of death. His family did say he was dealing with concussion problems his entire career and then alcohol abuse after his playing career was over. So, R.I.P. to Vincent Jackson. Prayers go out to that family. I hope that everybody that's affected by this comes out stronger. And we lost a good one. NBA Week 10 news. Utah is the hottest team in the league. They're 9-1 in their last 10 games. Their only loss in their last 10 games came last night versus the Clippers by 4 points. Utah's been on an absolute shred. They murdered the Clippers last time they played them. So if Clippers fans are excited about the 4-point win yesterday, I wouldn't be. The Lakers and Clippers are within 0.5 games of each other. They're within a game of each other in the standings for 2 and 3. And that's pretty exciting because if there was fans, the Staples Center would be lit every single night. There would be no questions about it. The War of LA would be amazing with fans in attendance. The War of LA is still going to be amazing. I do believe that these two teams will be in the conference finals. Moving on, Denver's struggling. After putting up a great playoff run last year and going off inside the bubble, Denver's 16-13 this year. Jamal Murray hasn't played up to expectation. Jokic has been killing it, but you can't just be a one-man team in the NBA now. Dallas is another struggling team. They put up a good fight versus the Clippers in the first round last year. They're at the 10th seed right now, and they're at 13-15. So a lot of ups and downs with teams that were great last year and the year before that aren't really doing that amazing this year. So that's going to be fun to watch. as the season goes on to see if maybe those teams can turn it around. The Pelicans are just completely underwhelming. They have Zion, they have Steven Adams, they have Lonzo, they have Drew Holiday. Or no, they don't have Drew. They have Eric Bledsoe. They have the tools to be successful. They're just not. They're just not. They don't score very many points. They play great defense, but scoring the basketball is proven to be tough for New Orleans. And that's why I think that there are some big moves coming after this season for New Orleans. I think Lonzo is going to be out of there. Bledsoe. I think they're going to blow that up and just try to surround Zion with shooters, because that's all you can really do when you draft a player number 1 overall that's as one-dimensional as Zion. So that's going to be interesting to watch come next year. Toronto is 7-3 in their last 10. You know, I've really given Toronto a lot of shit this year because they came out and they're absolute garbage. They didn't play basketball at all. They were not getting paid. They were not doing what they get paid to do. And now, over their last 10 games, 7-3, just killed Milwaukee. They're really starting to find their rhythm. I think Kyle Lowry heard everybody saying that he was about to be traded out of Toronto, and that's the franchise man right there. That's your hometown hero. Kyle Lowry has put everything into Toronto. And for them to just consider trading him, I think he stepped up his play. I think the team who loves Kyle Lowry has stepped up their play. And Toronto might actually finish in the top 4 of the East if they keep this hot streak going. Brooklyn, however, is second in the East. Their record's 19-12. They've only played, I think, 3 games with the entire team healthy since the Harden trade. So I'm honestly, as a fan, I'm ecstatic. I think this is awesome. I think the NBA is going to be a lot more fun. As a LeBron fan, I'm absolutely terrified because it's probably going to be the Lakers and Brooklyn. And if the Lakers aren't healthy, then I honestly don't think they have a chance. I don't think that LeBron, being as great as he is, can beat 3 of the top 10 best players in the world right now by himself. I think he needs Anthony Davis. If he has Anthony Davis, those are the 2 best players in the world on the same team, in my opinion. So if they have Anthony Davis, it's a whole different ball game. Don't have Anthony Davis, I think that series isn't even competitive, to be completely honest. And it's not anything to do with LeBron. The team that he has around him just isn't up to par. It's a bunch of young players. They're very inexperienced. They don't know how to carry the big moment. Kyle Kuzma had his moment in the playoffs last year and then played boo-boo the rest of the way. So I don't really have confidence in this Laker team without Anthony Davis. He's out 4 weeks with a calf strain. So Brooklyn's looking terrifying right now. And Stephen A. said it on First Take. Stephen A. said that the Brooklyn Nets are probably going to win the championship if Anthony Davis is hurt. And I, for the first time ever, agree with Stephen A. Milwaukee and Boston are struggling to stay above 500. Milwaukee is 4 games above 500. Boston is 1 game above 500. These are 2 teams that you expected to be at the top of the heap in the East. And everything's really at, average right now for both of these teams. I don't think they have an identity. I think people have figured out Milwaukee. And I think that the dynamic between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown isn't going well in Boston. So those are 2 teams that I really hope turn it around. I don't want the East to just be the Sixers and the Nets come playoff time. I want the East to be competitive, so I'm hoping that Milwaukee and Boston can kind of turn this thing around and start getting on the right path, because right now they're not looking like a contender. They're not even looking like a playoff lock, because everybody in the top 10 of the East is super close and anybody can beat anybody. So they got to start showing me that they can do this at a higher level than what they're doing right now. Minnesota, worst team in the league, 7 wins, 23 losses. And their pick is owned by Golden State. That means Golden State's going to have the number 2 pick last year where they drafted James Wiseman. And probably the number 1 pick this year. I'm scared. Because Golden State's going to be completely healthy next year. They're going to have the number 1 pick after just having the number 2 pick, picking one of the most dynamic centers I've ever seen come out the draft in my era. But that's terrifying. I hope Minnesota turns it around just so Golden State gets a worse pick other than the first pick. But I don't think they are, because Karl-Anthony Towns is soft. The coaching is terrible. D'Lo's out for 6 weeks because that's D'Lo. And the team's not good. The team's not good. Minnesota's a dumpster fire. It has been a dumpster fire since they drafted KG. They didn't do anything with KG. and now they're not doing anything with Cat, and Cat's one of the best talents in the NBA. So I don't know what's going on in Minnesota, but that's not looking good. But what is looking good is that Detroit, at 8 wins and 21 losses, is the second worst team in the league and the worst team in the East. So we're also fighting for that number 1 spot. They actually just had Blake Griffin to try to trade him. I hope he goes to the fucking Lakers because I want him to actually have a good career instead of spending it in Detroit where everything's a dumpster fire. I love Detroit, but fuck Detroit. And I think I got all I needed to get off my chest about the NBA. That was a rough, like, I have to breathe now. I let a lot out just now. So let's go on to the UFC 258 recap. I gave you guys a prelim fight to watch. I think that's how I'm going to do the prelims from now on. Just kind of give you like one fight out of all the fights that I really feel is going to be a banger. That's going to put on a lot of excitement that you guys would really good. If you start watching with that fight, it's going to be a good night to cap off. It's going to be a good start to your night. And that's what I think I did. Bilal Muhammad versus Diego Lima. Those guys just came at each other. They were scrapping the whole time, throwing heavy shots. Bilal Muhammad, the biggest winner of UFC 258, wasn't Kamaru Usman. It wasn't Alexa Grasso. It was Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad absolutely dominated Diego Lima. I thought it was 30-27s all the way around. And Diego Lima had nothing for him. His brother's Bellator welterweight champ. He's a part of a good camp, good family. He's a good fighter. But Bilal Muhammad made him look average. Bilal Muhammad puts a pace on people that they, at 170, cannot keep up with. I've only ever seen Colby, Jorge, Nathan, and Kamaru be able to hold that type of pace for as long as a fight goes on. Granted, he hasn't been in a 5-round fight, but I honestly believe that his pace will hold come championship rounds, will hold come that 4th and 5th round. And he's the biggest winner because with his performance, he actually had the opportunity now to step in on short notice, 4 weeks notice, versus Leon Edwards, the number 3 ranked guy in the world right now. And he's going to go in there on short notice and try to make a name for himself. That's why I think Bilal Muhammad is the biggest winner of UFC 258 because he got his W, he got his purse, and now he gets a huge opportunity to fight a top 5 guy in the world in a main event where everybody's been waiting for this guy to fight Hamzat Chimaev. Hamzat can't fight because of coronavirus. Bilal's coming in. This is one of the most hyped fights, one of the most hyped short release notice fights I've ever heard of. Bilal Muhammad, if he wins versus Leon Edwards on March 13th, that'll make 2 wins in 4 weeks over a great fighter in Diego Lima and an even better fighter in Leon Edwards. And I think Bilal Muhammad should start being put into that title picture because there's no way he beats Leon Edwards and isn't in that title picture. Bilal Muhammad has a great opportunity for himself. I'm really rooting for Bilal. He's one of the best guys in MMA, super funny, just a good guy all around, and I really hope that he can make the best of his opportunity. But we'll get into that closer to March 13th for sure. Moving on to the main card. Julian Marquez with a beautiful 3rd-round submission over Maki Pitolo. Maki Pitolo was putting the pressure on this guy for 2.5 rounds. And Julian Marquez held his composure. Oh, some guy bringing a gift for his, girlfriend. Aww.
That's cute.
That's super cute. Anyway, Julian Marquez got the shit beat out of him for 2.5 rounds and then submits Maki Pitolo. And then when Joe Rogan asks him who he wants to call out, he goes, I've been waiting a long time to do this. I've been waiting a long time to call this person out. Miley Cyrus, will you be my Valentine? Now, if that doesn't break... Bro, that's the cutest shit I've ever heard of in the world. Miley Cyrus actually tweeted him back saying that if he has a lot of chest hair. She said that if he shaves an MC into his chest hair, that she'll take him out on a date. She'll give him the chance. So Julian Marquez, man, you might have just been for the meme, but great moment to have witnessed. Great moment to be a part of. You're a great guy, great fighter. And yeah, that was a great performance by Julian Marquez. Ricky Simón absolutely dominates Brian Keller. I thought Brian Keller was going to come in here and kind of dominate, and he was complete opposite. Ricky Simón had the huge loss to Uriah Faber, then went on a skid. Now he's kind of just back. He's got a 2-fight win streak now going. I think he's going to keep the ball rolling at 135, but I do feel like Brian Keller here just had an off night, and he'll be back with his next performance. Kelvin Gastelum and Ian Heinisch had a great technical striking fight. But I do believe that Kelvin Gastelum won. I agree with the decision. I believe he won all of the rounds. I know there was a 20, 28, 29 sprinkled in there. I do believe it was a 30-27. Kelvin Gastelum was on a 3-fight skid since losing to Israel Adesanya. So he loses to Israel Adesanya, loses to Darren Till, loses to Jack Hermanson. He needs a big win versus Ian Heinisch. He gets it, proves that he should be in the top 5 of the middleweight division. I do think he's still at the wrong weight class. I think he needs to control his diet and get his fat down and go to 170. But yeah, he's going to be a top 5 middleweight come next week. Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber went... I gave you guys 2 scenarios last week, and it went in the scenario which I feel like was most likely. Alexa Grasso just completely pieced up Macy Barber for 15 minutes. Macy Barber, every time she threw a punch, Alexa Grasso was off the center line, moving left and right, landing her own jab, landing her own cross. Alexa Grasso put on a striking clinic versus Macy Barber. And I feel like Macy Barber is going to get a lot of hate because when she came into the UFC, she was very adamant on being the youngest champion ever. She's 22 years old. I still believe she still has 2 years. I think she can still do it. But with this performance, it shows me that she has a lot of work to do. So Alexa Grasso she went from 115. She was making a really bad cut to get to 115. Goes up to 125. Beats an absolute prodigy handedly. And Alexa Grasso, if she wins 1 or 2 more fights, could be lining herself up with Valentina Shevchenko for the belt. Which I honestly feel like would be a very, very, very good fight. Because both of those women can strike their asses off. So, congratulations, Alexa Grasso. Great win. But here's where everything stopped. Kamaru Usman TKOs Gilbert Burns in round 3. Dropped him twice with a jab in round 3. He really hurt him on a cross in round 2, and I don't think Gilbert Burns could ever recover after that. Gilbert Burns put up a great first round and a great second round. But Kamaru was the champ of the world for a reason. And I think he's the second best welterweight of all time after Georges St. Pierre. Congratulations to Kamaru. Honestly, congratulations to Gilbert Burns. In my eyes, he's still the number 1 contender. I don't think that anybody below him could easily win that fight. I think welterweight's wide open except for Kamaru Usman. He has completely shut me up. I'm never doubting him ever again. Kamaru Usman is worlds above anybody else at welterweight. But in the top 5, I think everybody can beat everybody. I think Jorge can beat everybody. I think Colby can beat everybody. I think Burns can beat everybody. Leon could beat everybody. Who knows, we might even be talking about Bilal Muhammad soon enough. But Stephen Thompson is the only top 5 welterweight that Kamaru hasn't beat. So, logically, he should be next for the belt. And I think that he has no shot. I think Kamaru Usman proved that none of these guys have a shot. I love Stephen Thompson. I love Jorge Masvidal. I appreciate Colby Covington's game. But I don't think they have what it takes to beat Kamaru Usman. I think Kamaru Usman is just head and shoulders above everybody else in that division when it comes to mental toughness and when it comes to skill level. And that leads me to our upcoming UFC Fight Night. Curtis Razor Blaydes versus Derek the Black Beast Lewis. Here's our prelim fight to watch. Drakkar Klose versus Luis Pena. Luis Pena's the violent Bob Ross, as he was called in The Ultimate Fighter. Had to pull out of The Ultimate Fighter due to an injury, but he's been on an absolute run since he's gotten into the UFC. So I have, honestly, this is going to be a great fight, but I have Luis Pena coming out. Unanimous decision. I think he just kind of fights going backwards, is able to pick him apart with the jab. And then if it hits the ground, I honestly see Pena being able to scramble for submissions way better than Klose can. And then for the main card, we start off with Andrei Arlovski versus Tom Aspinall. Arlovski has kind of been on a run. His career is kind of coming up. He was the champ, and now he's been on a wave of ups and downs. Right now, he's on one of his super ups since dropping the belt in the early 2010s, or in the late 2000s. But I do think Tom Aspinall is just younger, hungrier, faster, more explosive. So I'm going to go Tom Aspinall probably by TKO in round 1. Andre doesn't like getting hit very much because he can't take a punch. But I like Tom Aspinall's game. I like his power. And I'm going Tom Aspinall by TKO probably round 1. Philip Haas versus, listen, Nasruddin Imanov. I'm going to go Philip Paz. I don't know either of these fighters very well. But I'm just going to go Philip Paz because his name's easier to say. Alexei Oleinik versus Chris Daukaus. I'm going to go Alexei Oleinik by sub. Alexei Oleinik has a bunch of fights. I think he's 54-14-1. He has 46 submissions to his name. I think he has another one tonight and another unranked opponent. So Alexei Oleinik's kind of like the gatekeeper for heavyweight. Like, you don't really get into the top 10 until you can beat this guy. And a lot of guys are sent packing because they cannot beat this guy. And I think this is just going to be another one of those moments. And I'm going to go Alexei Oleinik by sub, if not in round 2, in round 3. Charles Rosa versus Derek Minor has fight of the night written all over it, if you're a diehard MMA fan. Because both of these guys are constantly looking for a finish. They're constantly going in there and giving their 100%. But they're both grapplers. They're both world-class grapplers. And I honestly think Charles Rosa is going to do enough at the end of the fight to win by unanimous decision. But this fight has FOTY, FOTON all written on it. Fight of the year, fight of the night, all of that good stuff written all over it. Ketlin Vieira versus Yana Kunitskaya. Now Yana, her first fight in the UFC was a title shot against Chris Cyborg. And since that fight, where she got absolutely fucking destroyed, she's been lackluster, middle of the pack, not very good. I'm going to go Ketlin Vieira, probably by submission within like the first 2 minutes. Because I do not believe Yana Kunitskaya has what it takes to be in the UFC, let alone be competing for a belt in the UFC. The fact that she's in the UFC after getting demolished and after not being able to prove herself after getting demolished is kind of ridiculous. I don't care what you've done in other promotions. The UFC has proven itself to be a completely different ballgame. So I don't care if you're the champ and Invicta. When you come into the UFC and just get dominated and embarrassed every single time, I don't care what you did outside of the UFC. I do not like Yana Kunitskaya. I feel like she should have never taken that fight versus Cyborg. I feel like her head was way too big. She knew she couldn't win that fight. She still took the fight. Granted, it's a great opportunity for her. I don't like people. I don't like people putting themselves into situations to disappoint the fans. And everybody knew on that night that Yana, no matter where she trains, I think she trains at John Wink MMA in Albuquerque with John Jones and Holly Holmes and the Karate Hottie, Michelle Watterson. I don't care if she trains there. Where you train doesn't matter. It's how you perform inside the octagon, and she hasn't been able to perform inside the octagon. And I think it's kind of a disgrace that she's on the co-main event of this amazing Fight Night card versus an amazing opponent in Ketlin Vieira. I get it that it sells, but I do not like Yana. And I think after this fight, she will be out of the UFC. Period. Straight up. All right, main event. Curtis Razor Blaydes versus Derek the Black Beast Lewis. This fight, Derek Lewis cannot wrestle. Curtis Razor Blaydes is an all-American wrestler. Derek Lewis can strike, has heavy hands. Curtis Blaydes can strike, have heavy hands. Everything is pointing to Curtis Blaydes absolutely dominating this fight, probably for 5 rounds and getting a finish. Everything is pointing to that. But something in my bones, and I said this about Gilbert Burns last week, and Gilbert Burns just got knocked the fuck out. I get it. My bones aren't always right. But sometimes, my bones speak to me. And in my bones, I really, truly believe that after getting his ass beat for 4.5 rounds, Derek Lewis is going to go balls to the wall and get a late 5th round KO. So that's what I'm going to go with. That's what I feel will most likely happen tonight. Do I think Curtis Blaydes is going to win the fight? Yes, I do. I think Curtis Blaydes has everything in his power to win this fight. He can take this fight wherever he wants and probably win a 5-round decision or get a finish, ground and pound, submission. I think he can. I really believe that he can, and he's probably going to. But if I had $100 right now to put on a fight, I'd put $100 Derek Lewis KO in round 5. And that just leads me to our thank yous. Thank you to the Raw DJs. They're not always here anymore because I film on kind of a hectic schedule. I don't really want to bother their personal life, but they're awesome. Every time they come through, every time they don't come through, they're still awesome. The Raw DJs are awesome. Shout out to them. Shout out to Malene, who sat here and watched my podcast. Shout out to Buddy, who's the best boy, the goodest boy in the whole wide world. Love everyone. And we are, hopefully the button on the remote works, out. I'm going to, pop, lock in, robot.
Oh, I didn't even turn it off.